Okay, hi everyone. We are back. I actually taped a segment and then realized that I completely goofed up the lighting. I didn't even have the light on. How about that? But the whole point of this was to do a follow-up. About 10 days ago, I posted some recipes, one of which was a how-to on how to make foolproof boiled eggs. I wanted to do an update on that. Also, following the boiled eggs, I wanted to talk about an egg salad, keto-friendly recipe for egg salad, and I want to report and do an update on that. And then finally, I wanted to talk about a chicken dish that I was looking to do and also making use of this. I posted about this on Facebook, which is about the Red Hot original. Frank's Red Hot has a dry spice blend that I wanted to talk about. I was really eager to play with it. So I got a chance to do that, and I wanted to be able to do an update on it. So here we go. As it relates to the eggs, I posted a cooking method on how to make hard-boiled eggs. I want to report back it works, and it worked every single time. I ended up making 3 batches of hard-boiled eggs for egg salad throughout last week, and every time I did it, it worked out really well. In essence, I'll post it again if anyone's interested, but in essence, the method is before you put your eggs into the water, you want to boil your water, get it to a rolling boil, and then you're going to drop your cold eggs into the rolling hot boiling water. And it seems counterintuitive, but it actually does work. A couple of times what I did have is that if the integrity of the eggshell was maybe a little weak, or maybe there was a bit of a hairline crack, I did have maybe 1 egg each time I boiled that would actually leak a bit of egg, and it would leach out of the eggshell. But for the most part, it really worked. To minimize that issue, what I happen to have is I made use of this. It looks sort of like a small bowl, but it's like a strainer. I picked this up at an Asian restaurant, or rather an Asian market, when at the same time I bought my wok, and it was really meant to be used with a wok. But it works. It works in a wok, and it also works to drop the eggs. So what I did was, because of the size of it, it was actually large enough where I could probably lay maybe 3 eggs in this little strainer each time, and then I could actually lower it down into the boiling water, and then just turn the whisk to the side, let the eggs drop down without my having to actually drop the eggs into the pot and risk the eggs hitting the bottom of the pot and risking the eggs breaking. So this worked out really well. So if you have something comparable to it, or say you just have like a large enough spoon or a ladle that is large enough, perhaps you may want to utilize that to kind of minimize the risk of the eggs breaking when you drop them into the boiling water. The other thing too is, before the water starts to boil, once the water is boiling, what you add before you drop your eggs in is you put in 1 teaspoon of baking soda. It's something about that baking soda and the effect of the boiling hot water on the cold eggs that really creates the effect. It boils the eggs, and I think it's something about the baking soda actually keeps the eggs from sticking to the shells, so that once you're done cooking your eggs, then once I got done doing that, I pulled the pot off the stove and poured out the hot water, and I ran ice cold water over it. Now, some of the instructions say you want to drop it into ice water or ice. I didn't do that. I just ran my tap until it was extremely cold, or as cold as I could get it, and then just let the water run over the eggs. And then I just let the water sit with the eggs until the internal temperature dropped, and then it was safe for me to be able to peel the eggs. And it worked every time, and it worked out really well. So as far as a cooking method for boiled eggs, it really works. So I can report back. I've done it. I ended up doing it 3 different times, and it worked every time with no issues. Following that is, I wanted to make egg salad. I had a taste for egg salad. I was craving it. So I just spent the week making egg salad, and it worked out really well. I am accustomed to making egg salad with sweet relish, and I was doing some research on sweet relish to see whether or not if there is relish without sugar in it, or a sweet relish that had like a sugar substitute. And I really didn't find anything. Everything had some form of sugar in it that wasn't going to be keto friendly for my purposes. What I did instead, I read someplace along the way that I can get regular dill relish, and what I did was I would use my dill relish the way that I would sweet relish, but what I would do instead is I used some of my keto-friendly sweetener, added that to the recipe, and that actually was enough to sweeten the dill relish so that it had a taste like sweet relish, and it worked out really well. So that was really the only thing that was different. And again, keto-friendly sweeteners that I've been using is erythritol or xylitol. The first time I made the recipe, I used the last of my xylitol, and it worked out fine. Same thing with the erythritol after that. And then if anybody wants to cover the different brand names for erythritol, we can cover that if anybody's interested, or if we need to cover it again. But that was like a really good quick fix. And what I'm finding is that a lot of these keto recipes, you can actually adapt an existing recipe that you have and just use keto-friendly ingredients, and it's actually working out really well. So I didn't change much with this egg salad recipe, and it worked out very well. Moving on to a chicken recipe that I posted. It's a hazelnut encrusted chicken. I had a large bag of hazelnuts that I knew I wasn't going to do anything with because it was just too much for me to consume, as it was. So I put them into the food processor, ground it down to make a meal out of it, and I used that as the coating for the chicken. I also wanted to make use of this to see what it was like. Now, one update about this before I get into the chicken itself. When I first talked about this and I posted about it, I was really excited about it for a number of reasons. One, and even looking at it now, I'm looking at it, it's low sodium. I still like that. It has no carbohydrates, and at the time, I thought no sugar or sweeteners. Now, once I actually started working with this product and started using it to prepare the chicken dish, I started looking at the ingredients list. The first time I looked at this, I just looked at the nutritional facts. Down here, where it talks about the actual ingredients, it turns out that toward the very bottom of the ingredients list, it does list sugar. And I kind of cringed because I was like, man, did I just ruin, my ketogenic planning. Here's my take on it, and this is me. What I'm noticing is that in the nutritional facts, it appears that there's so little sugar because one, it appears so far down in the ingredients list that suggests that the amount of sugar in here is nominal and not enough to really throw me out of ketosis. So I don't think that puts me in danger of throwing me out of ketosis. Also, there's so little sugar that it doesn't even register in the nutritional facts. So I think that it's still worthwhile, still low in carbs, or at least there's not enough sugar to even register as carbs. So I think that it's still a worthwhile item, and I still will use it. Now, overall, again, I was happy that it didn't have a lot of sodium. Once I started making the chicken dish, I discovered that after I did the first batch of chicken and I tasted it because I wanted to see what was going on with it, actually I ended up having to add some salt, which is not a bad thing because this way I can still use this and I can control the amount of sodium that I'm actually using in my food. So when I did the second and third batches of chicken, I actually just added some salt to it, and it worked out fine. So I was still very happy with the product, and I would definitely use it again. If anybody's asking what it's like, it's not going to be as intense in terms of heat the way the traditional liquid hot sauce is going to be. I think this is meant to add flavor and a little bit of heat, but I think it's a nice thing to add. It's a nice addition to whatever it is that you're going to make. But it's not going to be overwhelming. I think it's meant to be a mainstream product for lots of you. It's meant to be user friendly, so it's not going to be overwhelming or too hot or just it's meant to be palatable, so as many people as possible will still like it. So it's still worthwhile. I still like it, but you'll probably have to use a lot more of it to get intensity if that's what you're looking to do. I think it's still worthwhile. On to the chicken recipe itself. What I did was I seasoned the chicken, and then I dredged it in, I believe I used almond flour, and then I dredged it in egg yolk, and then I dredged it in the hazelnuts, and then I put it into a fryer, and I fried it on the stovetop. A couple of things about the chicken recipe itself. As far as using the hazelnuts as a breading or as a meal to coat the chicken, I ate it like that probably the first few pieces that I tried, and after a while, toward the end of the week, as I kept getting through the chicken and use it as my lunch and my dinner, I ended up, it got tiresome for some reason. I just got tired of eating it as it was, and I ended up taking the breading off and just eating the chicken as is. So really, it may turn out that the hazelnuts were overkill, and it just wasn't as interesting to me anymore. I don't see where it really added a heck of a lot to the chicken recipe itself. So if I were to experiment with making keto friendly chicken again in the future, again, I would make use of this, probably add salt as needed, and then also add some sage. I'm a real fan of sage on chicken. So I would probably make use of this to add, a nice little kick to the chicken, and maybe experiment with other ways to prepare the chicken. Like I will probably do, maybe next time, try oven fried version. And a good friend of mine is trying to sell me on the idea of getting an air fryer. So if people want to talk to me or talk me into getting an air fryer, I am certainly open to giving that a try. We can talk about it. It's just that part of me is so dreading the idea of getting yet another kitchen appliance. And some of you might feel my anguish about that, but I'm hearing people raving about it. I'm hearing it does wonderful things. It's just, I don't know if it's going to be a trendy thing or if it's something I'm going to use for a really long time. For example, staples of my kitchen are my crock pot. I love my crock pot. I know that it works and I use it all of the time. I have a pressure cooker. I've also used a pressure cooker. So those are the two items that I know that I have that are staples in my kitchen that I know that I'm going to use. So part of me is a little reluctant to try an air fryer, but I'm intrigued by it because as a practical matter, I'm kind of getting tired of making things on the stovetop. So I just fried chicken and it's making a hot mess, and I'm just tired of the cleanup. I'm tired of the smell. I'm tired of the splatter all over the place. So if anybody has ideas on that or thoughts on an air fryer, please let me know and we'll talk about it. One of the other things that we'll talk about in the future are probably switch back and talk about some hair things. Today I am multitasking. I went out and met with a friend and hung out for a while, but this morning I got up, detangled my hair, washed it and conditioned it, and right now I am doing a bentonite clay mask. So if anybody's interested about that, we can talk about that at another date, as far as what I use as a formulation and what I think that it does and works on my hair. So everybody, thanks so much for your patience. Hopefully in between actual postings, they won't be quite so few and far between, but everybody have a wonderful week. Be safe. Bye.